Hey guys, what's going on? So today I'm coming to you with another Armada ship breakdown, and today it's the MC-80, the Home One style, as opposed to the Winged Liberty style. This is the Home One, the first large ship for the Rebels. This came out in Wave 2, and it's a monster. There's so many cool things about this ship, and there's some drawbacks. I'm going to talk about those. We're going to talk about the two different ship cards that you get, some possible configurations. I'm also going to talk about the titles that come with it, the roles that it can perform, and which commanders it works best with. For purposes of time and the fact that this video is going to be online for a long time, I'm only talking about what's available up to Wave 5. I'm not talking about Wave 6 or beyond because that stuff isn't out yet, so we haven't had a chance to even have Wave 6 fully spoiled yet or to play test anything from Wave 6. So with that in mind, here we go. The MC-80 comes in two varieties. It comes with the MC-80 Command Cruiser and the MC-80 Assault Cruiser. The Command Cruiser is the cheaper one at $106, while the Assault Cruiser is $114, and there's a few differences between them. The Command Cruiser is typically your more of a carrier-based ship, and while your Assault Cruiser is more of your battleship. The Assault Cruiser has more red dice. It also has two blue anti-squadron dice, so it's better at longer ranges. And it's the only ship in the entire game, as of right now, to have two defensive retrofits, which opens up a world of cool possibilities, and I think is going to keep it going forward into the future even more viable. Because this ship doesn't get played too much right now. It gets played a little bit, but there's much better, there's other ships that get taken a lot more. And I think having two defensive retrofits is huge, and it's going to open the door for a world of possibilities, because there's really not that many options to choose from right now. And as more upgrade cards become available, that's going to make it even better. The Command Cruiser, however, is the only Rebel ship in the game right now that can do a squadron value of 4 as its base. It's got a higher squadron value than the Assault Cruiser. And the fact that it has the offensive retrofit means it could potentially even, do more things with that squadron. It could even push it to 5, but it can do a lot more there. The drawback for both of these ships, though, is that their speed 2 is the highest they can go. So they're slow, and that's kind of hurts them. So that's another reason why they don't get fielded quite as much. The ship has huge broadside arcs, and that's pretty amazing. The Command Cruiser is also the only large ship for the Rebels as of right now that has the offensive retrofit. So if you wanted to, have something like a rapid launch bay on there, this is the only large ship you can do that on. So let's talk about the MC-80 Command Cruiser. It's got less red dice than the Assault Cruiser, and so it's not really the version that you're going to want to be primarily attacking with, although you can if you're trying to save the points. But one way you might see this configured is with engine techs, first and foremost, because that makes up for one of its biggest weaknesses is the speed. If you put engine techs on there, you can now go your 2 and then 1 more. So that's huge. Maybe you'll put Flight Commander on here and Rapid Launch Bay. So now what this allows you to do is it lets you to take advantage of your higher squadron value of 4. So you can have 4 squadrons on the ship, and then Flight Commander allows you to drop them off after you move. And combining that with engine techs, you have more, because your regular move is a move, engine techs is a move. So you have plenty of options on where exactly you might want to drop some ships. So that is a very possible use for it as a carrier. You can also consider, possibly because there's so much blue dice, you might want to consider putting SW7 ion batteries on here to help all those extra accuracies count for damage if you didn't need the accuracy. What you'd hate is you'd hate to roll, like a red accuracy and then a blank, and maybe just 1 damage and then a whole bunch of blue accuracies, and then for 6 dice you only get 1 damage. So that the SW7 is going to give you more reliable damage if you do get in close, and with engine techs you're more likely to be able to get in close. And this is a tough ship, guys. This is a very tanky ship, so it can usually survive if it gets in close, and that's a really good thing about it. It does have the defensive retrofit, so there's plenty of options you could put on there also, but I'm saving those for the Assault Cruiser. So let's talk about the Assault Cruiser. So amazing, right? Double defensive retrofit. There's a whole bunch of things you can do with this. One way you might see an Assault Cruiser configured is with Engineering Captain. Okay, Engineering Captain isn't something these type of crew officers I don't use a lot, because I don't usually have to, I usually pick the right commands a lot. But with this type of ship, here's an option, because it's both incredibly tanky and incredibly offensive. So maybe I want to do concentrate fire every turn or navigation every turn, and I don't want to have to engineer unless I'm taking damage, because they may just, if you queue up engineer every turn, they may just not attack you, and then your engineering commands can at least partially go to waste. So engineering captain allows me to take any other command I want. I can nav every turn if I need to, or I can concentrate fire every turn if I need to. And then when it's revealed, if I've taken damage or if I need the engineer, now I can do it. And this is such a great ship for that, especially combined with the rest of these cards that we're going to add. Let's add in projection experts. Projection experts allows you to put that engineering command to better use. If you don't need the damage, but somebody right next to you does, now projection experts allows you to push shields to somebody else, because you got so many shields on this ship, you're just going to be handing them out. Maybe you also put redundant shields on here, okay? And ECM. So if you do get shot, you're going to guarantee that you'll be able to brace, and then your redundant shields are going to kick in with your projection experts. So even if you do pass out shields, you can still get some back. With an engineering value of 4, you can spend 4 engineering points from your engineering captain, because I queued up a concentrate fire, but I need to hand out shields. Okay, no problem. So 2 shields go to another ship. And then your other 2 points, you get 1 shield back, and then at the end of the status phase, you get another shield back. So you're getting all your shields back, and you just passed out shields to somebody else. And you did that with the engineering command from the engineering captain. So that's that's the defensive tanky capabilities of this ship being put to work. So next up, we still with the assault cruiser. It's also, dude, I mentioned that it's got great red dice. You got 4 red dice on the side of this thing with these huge arcs, and you can even it's got 2 red dice in the front. So let's give it leading shots and XI7. I mean, you can put, there's really no wrong answer. Well, there are some wrong answers, but there's not many wrong answers for your turbo laser option. But XI7 is kind of a universally good one. Enhanced armament is also good. But leading shots kind of gives you the insurance policy that when you get that, I need to kill somebody now, and I rolled a couple of blanks, gives you that reroll ability. And it can also combo with some other things that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the video, so stay tuned for that. Now let's look at the titles that come for these ships. Oh, they are so interesting. I'm going to start off with my least favorite one, though, and it's the Independence. And there's some cool things to do with the Independence, and I'm going to talk about that, but first I'm going to tell you why it's terrible. Well, it's not terrible, but why I don't like it. It's so expensive. It's 8 points, and it's tough to put an 8-point title on a ship. But what it lets you do is when you do a squadron command, the squadrons that you activate can increase their speed up to speed 4. If they do that, then they cannot attack this activation. So this was originally really cool because the B-Wings only had speed 2 and people weren't using them very much. So when Independence came out, people figured, hey, I can use Independence to kind of get my B-Wings into range quicker. And then, later on, once they're engaged, then the speed 2 isn't that big of a deal. The problem is right after this came out and people started doing that, every expansion that came out after that kind of gave another way to make B-Wings better and other slow ships better. So the Independence's value really got downplayed by all the other stuff that did what it does better. So that's why it's not really used that much anymore. But there's still some things you can do with it. So you can still use it that way, maybe with other slower ships too, like the YT-1300. Which is another great ship. It's also only speed 2, but it's the type of ship that you might not need to attack because you might want to just put it into place, and it's a tank with counter, by the way, and it can still counterattack. Maybe you just want to get it into place and leave it there and let it be the tank, stop the other squadrons, and counterattack them all day long. And it's got a lot of hull too. It can afford to do that. So that's another thing you could do. And if you're going to do that, maybe it combos well with boosted comms, because you can potentially push your squadrons out of range so that you can't provide continued support for them. So boosted comms helps ensure, because don't forget, this is a slow ship, only speed 2, right? So I've seen it happen before where people think, oh, all right, Independence, and then they push their squadrons too far ahead, and now they're out of support range. So boosted comms helps you to kind of counter that, or expanded hangar bay. If you want to, really bump it up to be able to do 5, maybe you've got 5 YT-1300s or something like that. But another thing also works well with Adar Talon if you need that B-Wing or that Luke Skywalker, or, well, maybe not Luke, but maybe Kean Farlander to go forward and also to be able to attack again later at the end of the turn. If you want him to be able to push forward and he's still ready, Adar Talon can work with the Independence title. But another thing that I think Independence may have a future with is the VCX. The VCX 100 is got relay and strategic, and now both of these have different aspects which could make them work well with Independence. First one is relay. So maybe I've got a bunch of squadrons up here and I can't reach them. Okay, no problem. But I can reach the VCX, which is behind. Well, then I push that forward, and then now through relay I can, hit the other squadrons. And so I didn't need it to attack, because the strength of relay, a ship with relay, is not always that ship's ability to attack. It's that ship's ability to just be somewhere and relay the command. So granted, it's only got a relay value of 1, but maybe you have 2 VCXs, and you do a squadron, boom, boom, and then boom, boom, through the relay. You know what I mean by boom, boom, right? Boom, 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 because that's what happens when you surprise your opponents with relay, and they weren't expecting that. Pardon my booms. I get a little carried away talking about this stuff. And then the other option is strategic. Strategic is an ability that's really, really cool depending on the mission that you're doing or the objective, and that doesn't require attacking at all. So being able to increase a VCX has only got speed 3, so being able to boost it up to 4 can potentially surprise somebody. They think you're too far away to be able to move that mine, and then you do it with Independence, and they have a hard time with it. And they can help you to kind of walk a minefield objective back. Maybe you're running like 3 or 4 VCXs, and you totally surprise your opponent by 1, 2, and 3, and then now a minefield that wasn't anywhere near their ships is now completely in their face. And I've done that before. I've turned my opponent's minefield against them, and there's few things in this game that are more satisfying than doing that. So that's that's fun, and I think the Independence can help. Only a little bit. It does help because it increases the VCX's speed from 3 to 4 when doing that. I'm not sure if it's worth 8 points, but it helps. And if some future stuff comes out that also synergizes with this, like maybe there's a really good strategic ship that's only got speed 1 or 2. I don't think you'll ever see a squadron with speed 1, but if there's a strategic squadron that comes out that's got other benefits and is only speed 2, then Independence could be really good for that ship. Depending on what other abilities it may or may not have. So that's just something to keep in mind going forward. Independence does have some future usage, although it's not all that clear right now. Next up, we're going to talk about the Home 1 title, because this is the one that the entire expansion is named after, right? And this is Admiral Akbar's ship. The Home 1 is amazing title, and it's got one key drawback, is that it's so good, but it's also going to be really expensive. It's 7 points for this title, and it has to go on an MC-80, which is the most expensive ship in the entire Rebel Alliance. So if you want this amazing support title, you have to spend well over 100 points to get it out there, and it's hard having a support ship that's that expensive. But Home 1 lets other allied ships turn a red die into an accuracy, and being able to guarantee an accuracy on every attack except for your own ship, and that's one of the critical pitfalls of this, is that it doesn't work on its own ship. So, and that's kind of something you would expect to go on a cheaper support ship, because they don't really have to affect themselves, right? But no, Home 1, it's like, this is, you're going to have a 100-point ship that doesn't get any benefit from the support. So that's the problem with Home 1. It is, however, great with any fleet that happens to have a lot of red dice. So if you're running Akbar, it's great with Assault Frigate Mark IIs. Assault Frigates Mark II? What's the plural of Assault Frigate Mark II? Let me know in the comments what you think the plural for Assault Frigate Mark II is. I think it's Assault Frigates, Assault Mark II Frigates. How about that? Okay, anyway, but yeah, if you're running Akbar, those are great because they already have 3 red dice on their sides, and so you're going to be getting like 5 red dice, and chances are you're going to probably, if you're rolling like 3 or more, chances are you'll have one blank, at least one blank that you can then mitigate and turn that one into an accuracy and make it work for you and really maximize the value of the Home 1. You want to have a lot of ships here. If you're not running Akbar, then maybe consider the Nebulon B, because you still got the 3 dice, or the Assault Frigate, but the Nebulon B could also work, and it's a little cheaper, and it's a way to get more ships in your build, and more ships taking advantage of the Home 1 is a good thing. What you don't want is, a ship with only one red die, or maybe even two. I mean, I can see maybe two, but like you don't want that just a CR90 that all they have is a side arc and they roll one red die, because you can't use it then. You're not going to turn that one die to an accuracy. Or even if you concentrate fire, you need to have, you need to have it, like what happens if you roll 2 hits? You're like, well, do I, cut my damage in half just to get the accuracy? And it's just, your payoff ends up being very slim if you're doing that. So to maximize the value of Home 1, bring ships that have at least 3 red dice on one side. And right now, that would either be another MC-80, which is going to be really expensive, or your cheaper options are the assault frigates and the Nebulons. So keep those in mind, especially the assault frigates if you're flying Akbar. Nebulons, not so much if you're flying Akbar. All right, and next is Defiance. Defiance is the cheapest title, and it's also wicked cool. So it's costs 5 points, and it kind of works best if you have a lot of ships, so that you can save the Defiance to activate last. Because if you're attacking a ship that's already activated, you get to add a die of any color. Now, that by itself doesn't, that sounds great all by itself, so you might not even think that you have to do anything else to this. But there's some cool little combos, and this one, because Sato is one of the newer commanders right now, and I was thinking to myself, well, suppose I put this on an assault cruiser. And I think the other 2 titles would be better on the command cruisers for the squadron value, or just for the cheaper cost of trying to have the cheapest support you can have. But the Defiance, I would want to put on an assault carrier. I'm sorry, an assault cruiser. And here's why. All right, so I can get 4 red dice, 5 if I have a concentrate fire. All right, so let's say I'll start off with the 4 red dice. Maybe I've got Sato and I've got squadrons out there, and I have choices to make, because I can make them whatever color I want. Let's say I make it 2 black, because typically what you'll do with Sato is you typically make your dice black for the biggest payoff. And so I roll 2 red and 2 black. And now, because this ship is already activated, and that's why we're talking about Defiance. Oh, I didn't get an accuracy, no problem. I can add a blue. Or if I did get a red accuracy, I can add whatever I want. Suppose I roll terrible. And here's the thing. With the Defiance, it combos really well with leading shots. Because now I can add, even if I don't have Sato, right? I can opt to just add a blue die. If I have more than 1 blank die, I just add a blue die and I spend it to reroll the other dice. No problem, Or, and then you just have options. Or if you just need the accuracy because you're going up against a flotilla or something like that, there's that option as well. But, you having that option, and especially trying to combo that with leading shots, I think is a really cool idea. I suggest you try it. All right, so those are our titles. Let's talk about the roles. And I've already talked about these roles a little bit. So it can function as a support role. This isn't its strongest role. But we talked about already the Home 1. It's a great support title, but it's very expensive, so that's why I say it's not the strongest role for it. If this ship costs like 50 points, then that would be fantastic. But no, you're going to be spending like over 100 if you're going to have a Home 1, and you probably want more than just the Home 1 title on here, but maybe not much more. So it becomes a very expensive support. But there's other things you can do. You can also, we talked about earlier putting projection experts on this thing. So you're, running engineering commands, handing out shields, or maybe do both. Maybe a Home 1 with projection experts that's handing out shields. So then you make it like more of a dedicated support. It still ends up being very expensive, because now you've even added more upgrades onto this already expensive ship. But it can do that, and it would be great if it was cheaper. But it also packs a punch. So at least it's a support that has teeth. It can be an attacker. It's harder for this ship to be like a spearhead, the tip of the spear attacker, because it's so slow. So if you're gonna do that, you need to have engine techs on there. It's like a prerequisite, because it's only speed 2 and it's not gonna get into attack range. And any opponent who's played the game enough times is going to, you're going to be very, very predictable on what you can do, and they're going to be able to fly circles around you, and they're going to be able to stay out of your big side arcs. So, the only way to have a chance to, to stop somebody from just predicting what you're going to do and staying out of your arcs is with engine techs. And this way you can either stay ahead of them or keep up with them, or if it's closer to the end of the game and they're trying to run away from you, you can have a better chance of not having them just stay out of your range and escape you. But its best role is as a tank, because it's a large ship. It's got 8 hull. It's got a ton of shields, and your assault cruiser version has double defensive retrofit. Both versions have at least one defensive retrofit, so you can at least put ECM on there. This is a great place for you to put your commander. Typically, when there's an MC-80 on the board, a Home 1 style MC-80, people will not attack it. And if there's another option, if it's the only option or if it's the closest option, obviously they're going to take that. But usually people are going to go for the easier, the bigger payoff targets first, because there's a very good chance, especially if you have some type of defensive upgrades on this ship, that you're going to be able to deal with whatever damage they throw at you and potentially bounce back from it. And it's not a guaranteed kill. Whereas if you're going after, a Nebulon, for example, and you get that side shot, you're going to probably have it in one shot, maybe two shots. So like when I'm playing, I go for the ships I know I can kill, and the ships that I don't think I'm going to be able to kill, I either save to last or just ignore and then hope I win on points. So it's a very, very good defensive ship. A lot of times, if you build it up defensively, people will probably just leave it alone. So it's a great place for your commander. Not everybody will leave it alone, but and don't just fly this one ship by itself into an opponent's fleet saying, "Oh, Crabbok said you would leave me alone." No, if that's the only shot, or if they've got a range 1 shot on you and like a range 3 shot on somebody else, they're probably gonna take it, especially if they got multiple ships. But all other things being equal, they're probably gonna go for something that's more of a short kill as opposed to the ship that they may not be able to finish off. All right, so now I want to talk about commanders. Which commanders work best with an MC-80? Now this is going to be like I'm going to rank them from worst to best. This isn't me ranking the commanders themselves on their own merits. This is only me ranking their abilities on how they affect the MC-80. And so my bottom two are going to be very clear. The bottom one is Mon Mothma. This ship has no evade tokens, so she does nothing for it. Mon Mothma is great, but she does nothing at all for the MC-80 itself. Now, she could do stuff for a fleet that had an MC-80 in it if other ships had the evades, but Mon Mothma's a waste with an MC-80. And actually, I wouldn't even suggest her with a fleet with an MC-80 because it's just not very good. Next is Kraken. Again, does nothing for the MC-80. He only works if you're speed 3 or higher. The ship cannot go speed 3, so therefore he does nothing. And the only reason he's ranked higher than Mon Mothma is because he's cheaper. And if for some reason you were forced between the two, maybe in a campaign and everyone else was either taken or dead, then go with Kraken just because you have to have a commander and he's cheaper. So he's less of a detriment to you than Mon Mothma. All right, so now we got those two out of the way. Those are the only ones that do absolutely nothing. And now next is Riken. So Riken is at the bottom of the list of the commanders that actually do something. And the reason he's at the bottom is because you're so tanky you may not die. So Riken is best for ships that are at high risk of dying to guarantee they get their shot. This ship is at very, very low risk of dying, so Riken doesn't do much for it. Next is Maydeen. Maydeen does very little for this ship, but he does still have an impact, so he can still work. And the reason I say he does very little for this ship is if you're spending a nav dial, you're already going to have, a double click somewhere. And so you're not getting that much extra. You're only getting really one extra yaw out of Maydeen, and it's not the biggest payoff. So it still helps a little bit, but it's not the biggest thing. It's if you're going to use Maydeen, if the rest of your fleet really benefits from Maydeen, then that's great. And probably also take Engine Techs. Engine Techs is something you should take with as many MC-80 builds as you can, just to try to, or unless you're like defending. If you're defending, like depending on the objective you have, and you're just going to stay put and make somebody come to you, you may not need them. But yeah, Maydeen, not so great for this one. Next, Garm Bel Iblis. Garm Bel Iblis is pretty decent for the MC-80. He gives a lot of tokens out. They do have a command value of 3, so they're going to get full value out of Garm. They're probably going to live long enough to get full value out of Garm the second time around, which is an important part. So Garm is cool. They also have a lot of titles and other things that trigger off of things that you can use tokens for. Like, for example, the Independents might only need to hit one squadron, so having that squadron token would be really good for it. Or like Engine Techs, having that nav token allows you to trigger Engine Techs, and this way you could have done a different command. Or we talked about Projection Experts. So there's all kinds of really good ways to use this ship that a token really synergizes with. So actually, Garm is fantastic for this ship. And next up, Dodonna. Dodonna is like my favorite ever. He's amazing, and he only costs 20 points. So one of the reasons, first off, he works in everything. Now this isn't a ship that's specifically designed to get crits out, but it is a ship that's very expensive, so it benefits a ton by having Dodonna be a cheap commander. So that's huge. And also, if you're running like Home 1, for example, your other ships that do roll crits are now more likely to be able to actually get them through. So Dodonna is great because of that. So that's one of the reasons I think Dodonna is just really great for this. He works for everything. Even if your opponent lands on an asteroid and has to take a face-up damage, Dodonna is triggering. He can trigger first turn. He's amazing. So Dodonna is great. Next up, Sato. Sato is amazing. This ship works really good as a carrier, so it's already going to work very, very well with squadrons, and Sato just enhances that ability even more. And what's better is there's so many red dice here, you're going to have lots of options for long-range shots. You can go with black dice, you have still a chance to have the accuracy from your reds, or you can go with blues if you want to double force that accuracy. And if you're running Home 1 and you don't have anything else to modify your own stuff, Sato gives you options. And if you need to force your own accuracy, you can add blues. But typically you're going to be adding blacks, and you're going to have more than just the 2 blacks. So even if somebody's got the evade to try to cancel that 1 double damage, you have a lot more damage coming. So Sato is very, very nice. And I've said before with other Sato videos, he works well with anybody who's got a lot of red dice. And this ship has it in spades. So Sato is number 2. But the number 1 commander is Akbar, because look at the side arcs on this ship. It's huge. They're just huge. They're just incredible broadside ships, and Akbar is perfect with them. You can have 6 red dice, even 7, potentially 8 red dice coming out of an assault cruiser. It's amazing, and Akbar is fantastic. And if you're going to run Akbar with this ship, you want to have as many big broadside attacks as you can in the rest of your fleet. And it's gonna be nasty, and it's very good if you're actually new to the game. Running one of these with an Akbar type fleet is a very easy way to learn the basics of broadside combat. It's a very forgiving way because these ships aren't as likely to get blown up, and you get a high payoff, and it's fun to roll a big handful of dice. So if you have some newer players, or if you're a newer player yourself, or you're teaching a newer player, maybe set them up with a fleet with Akbar in this, and you probably already have done that maybe, but if you haven't already, try it out. It's a lot of fun. It's a fun way to fly a broadside list with Akbar and the MC-80. All right, guys, so this has been the ship breakdown for Armada's MC-80 Home 1 style. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you are liking these ship breakdowns. I've gotten some good feedback. And if you're not a Armada player, but you're considering getting into it, check out some of my videos for what to buy first for Armada. But also check me out on Crabbok.com, as the new website is up, and we're getting it going. Writing some articles on there, and we've got the message board going on. And also subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate everybody that subscribes. It means a lot to me, and I'm closing in on 5K. Gonna have some giveaways here soon, so that's gonna be cool. And be sure to like this video and leave a comment if you would. Thanks so much. Have a great day.